Hey, welcome to the show, Rob. What's up, man?
It's been so long.
It has.
It's been so long.
Oh, since you and I have actually done a show with microphones in our faces.
Yeah, man.
Ages.
Yeah, it's been forever.
I know. I know. But I've been meaning to do kind of like this, like, look back. I mean, it's been since October, but still I want to look back and be like, how has the Absolute Universe been going and how has the Ultimate Universe been going? And I was like, I know exactly who I need to talk to about this. Because I am sure that Rob has big takes.
Yes, 100% on the Absolute Universe. Oh my God, like it's the Absolute Universe is to a point now where I feel like, I mean, not just me, but like a lot of my fans are also saying it too in the comments. Like they kind of like that more than everything else that's going on in DC.
I'm hearing a lot of vocal dissent about the Absolute Universe being like, well, I'm just gonna live here from now on. Like this is my universe now. That said, I shouldn't discount what DC's doing. I assume you're reading at least a handful of DC like proper books, all in books.
Not really, to be honest.
Really?
I'm kind of in that group. Yeah, I'm not.
No way.
I haven't read anything from Batman since. I haven't read anything from the main DC universe since the end of Absolute Power. And then I was like, okay, like I need to take a little bit of a hiatus, for a little while. And
it's
then
so
DC
important.
like launched Absolute, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, dude, you have hit on something that's so fundamental and so important, and it's something that comic fans I think forget they can do, which is just stop reading for a little while.
Yeah, man.
Like it helps with the burnout, it helps with the fatigue. When you're like, man, it's just so grueling to read this book. It's like, dude, when you're eating a huge sandwich and you're like, man, I think I'm full. You don't just power through the sandwich. Like you wrap it in foil, put it in the fridge, come back to it later.
Yeah, man. Yeah, no, that is a fantastic point. And it doesn't hurt that the comics come out monthly and stuff like that, but still, man, like it's Absolute Power I loved. And I was a little curious about how things were going to feel coming out of Absolute Power. But between Absolute Power and Superman's entire story arc, Batman's entire story arc leading up to Absolute Power, right?
Yes.
So the whole Brainiac thing and the whole failsafe thing and all that kind of stuff, I was like, okay, so much has happened in this comic book. Like, so much has happened in the DC universe right now. Like, I'm going to give myself a moment to, like, breathe. Yeah. And then DC's, like, Absolute Universe. And it's just like, Absolute Superman, Absolute Wonder Woman, and Absolute Batman. This Trinity they have, it's dominating my interest. Like, it's to the point now where it's like, I'll catch up with Batman when I get a chance. Like, that's really all it is for me in the here and now. Because
I hear you.
Yeah, man. I mean, what's your take? Because I'll tell you how I feel about it here in a little bit, but I want to know your take on the Absolute Trinity, I guess.
Well, I mean, the Absolute Trinity is friggin' dope. It's funny because it took me up until issue 3 for me to get sold on Superman, but like the Absolute Wonder Woman Batman books were immediate hits for me. I was like, this is not exactly what I've been looking for, but it's to that point that they're so successful. It's something that I was not expecting and that I would never think to ask for. And so as a result, it's something unique and interesting. And they're both so good that they pulled me in and made me, a subscriber to those series. Absolute Superman was the outlier where I was like, all right, nah. But once we got to the third issue.
What?
I know.
I know. What? Okay. Why? Explain to me why.
Absolute Superman felt the least cohesive. So, Absolute Batman and Absolute Wonder Woman, creative teams, of course, Nick Dragata and Scott Snyder on Absolute Batman, and Hayden Sherman and Kelly Thompson on Absolute Wonder Woman. With respect to Absolute Superman, that one felt the least clearly defined. Absolute Batman and Absolute Wonder Woman were like, this is the story, this is the idea, this is the premise, boom. And
I could see that.
Didn't crowd the narrative with a lot of lore. Whereas Absolute Superman, and I think it's just because Jason Aaron was like, I'm doing Superman. I got to put it all in there. And at least with the debut issue, I was like, all right. I mean, it looks great, but I was like, do I need Krypton? Do I need all this extra stuff? Superman's in Brazil. He's helping fire. He's a freedom fighter. Yeah, that I get. But all I could think about, honestly, and you'll remember this, is Action Comics with Grant Morrison during the New 52, where it's like,
that
Superman is a
17-issue legendary run or whatever. Yeah.
Where it's like, Superman is a boots on the ground, like little people helper. Like, I read that already.
Well, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Continue on. Yeah.
But I dug it.
I get where you're coming from.
But the Krypton stuff, I'm like, I don't care about this place that's going to blow up. The point of this place is that it explodes. I'm not interested.
Yeah, that's the purpose it serves. It's to be the sad reason why Superman is Superman.
Yeah, it's like, it would be like if Absolute Batman spent 2/3 of the book just hanging out with the Waynes, where I'm like, you're corpses. Go away.
Like this tragic comedy show, like it's the Waynes, and like at the end of season 1 they're gonna get shot to death.
Exactly. So, yeah. I'm shocked that Warner Brothers hasn't made a show just called The Waynes.
The Waynes. Yeah.
It was like, it starts at Martha finds out she's pregnant mid-season, and then you just see how long you can push that show.
Yeah.
It has. But issue 3, when we're like, not only is it clear that like the Krypton stuff is dope, and that Cal's parents are cool and interesting, or the fact that Cal remembers being on Krypton and that he was sent to Earth when he was still a kid, like when he was
an adolescent.
Yeah, exactly.
12 or something like that.
Yeah, 12 or 13 at least. And it's like, oh, that's an interesting idea. But issue 3, where it's like, no, we're taking everybody with us. Like, we're going with you. I was like, oh no. The fact that, I don't want to spoil it. I feel so bad spoiling it, but the twist at the end of issue 3.
I mean, spoiler alerts, man. Like, people know okay. I want to know, because I have an idea on what happens with his mom. But let me know what you think about
the reveal that the L's are also the Kents.
Yeah.
That when they land on Earth, they approximate the identities of this other family. Like, Superman doesn't have 2 sets of family. Superman has one family, and they are both the Krypton family and the Earth family. I was like, I love this. Because it's so unique and so cool.
Those dots. I never connected those dots. Like, I've been sitting here trying to rationalize, like, how in the world do they square the circle of like his parents being there,
right,
and then him being here? Like, do they die on arrival or something like that? Like, because it looked like when I looked at that, I was like, so that looks like Ma Kent and like Pa Kent, and like I was like, and it never occurred to me, that Aaron's gonna be like, so like
they're the
Laura
same people.
And Jor-El just take over the identities of Jonathan and Martha Kent. No way.
Yeah. I was like, oh, it's a great book. Okay. Like, and by the way, I should have trusted it because Aaron's great. Like, Aaron crushes it.
Okay. Here's the thing, though. I don't.
Here we go.
No, Jason Aaron Salt. Like, I will read pretty much anything written by Jason Aaron. But you're not the only one who feels that way. And there's a lot of distrust towards the Superman mythos coming out. Still, like, people still feeling the Bendis run. Even though, like, we've gotten some great stories, right? The Philip Kennedy Johnson War World trilogy was incredible. I mean, it was one of the greatest Superman stories that I think I've ever read, right? Like, a powerless Superman on War World trying to... And it really has some hints of, like, what is it? Planet Hulk.
Oh, yeah.
About it, right? Like, it's 100% influenced by Planet Hulk, but it's still a phenomenal story, right? And you get back and you get that the whole run of like the Superman family expanding and everything.
Exactly.
Yeah, sure, there's been some great work there, but I think the feeling from Bendis's run still holds strong. And I mean, I would venture to say that when Philip Kennedy Johnson came on board for Superman, he wasn't nearly the same level as like Jason Aaron or Brian Michael Bendis.
Yeah,
which isn't a bad thing. Right, but,
in terms of popularity, yeah,
in terms of popularity, right, like being a household name,
exactly.
Kind of and so when a big name comes on to Superman, you're just kind of like, well, I mean, the last time they did that.
Oh my God! And history's repeating itself because they just announced the other day, like, oh, Dan Slott's coming to Superman from Marvel, and he's going to do a whole original series, just like Bendis did, and he's going to bring back all the things he remembers when he was a kid. And I'm like, didn't you guys learn your lesson? Like, I hope at least you didn't like give him the Bendis salary, because the Bendis amount of money that he made for that series, reportedly, allegedly, rumor has it, was insane. And there
were a lot of zeros at the end of that.
Too many zeros, you might say.
Too many zeros at the end of that odd number.
But I don't know, man. I'm like, oh, Slott's doing that. Because the thing is, and I don't mean to switch gears, but like,
no.
I think Superman's doing great right now. Like, I think the direction for Superman, I mean, Action Comics is a book that I recognize is great, but I only have so much bandwidth. I'm reading what Williamson is doing with Superman. I can't read what everybody else is doing with Superman. The Superman book, I mean, once Dan Mora got on board, the book went, like, it had a quantum leap of dopeness.
Wait, I may be caught up. The current, is it Superman or Action Comics where Doomsday is
that's Superman.
That's Superman? Okay, I'm caught up on that.
Isn't it cool? Like, and
it's
super
phenomenal. Yeah,
it's cool. It
Action,
looks
I'm
great.
caught up on.
Yeah, I am also not caught up on Action Comics, which I need to be because I understand it's good. I'm sorry, folks. I know. You're reading Action, everybody. I'm not.
Stuff
I'm sorry.
to do, folks.
I read comics for a living. I only have so many. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And that's okay. So that's one of the things that's always kind of funny to me, because even back during the weekly pull days, people would give us a hard time about that. They would be like, "You guys are comic book YouTubers. You should be reading every single thing that comes out every week." And it's like, what we did when we first started. And then we realized how problematic that was.
Well, you can't retain everything. I mean, it's just no. Trust me, folks.
I got Philips Hue lights in my basement.
Yeah.
And so they
it just got really dramatic in there.
Yeah, they shut off after a certain period of time. It's like, and at this moment, I'd like to have a serious conversation.
Yeah, please. This is Rob's moment here.
But yeah, everything gets there we go. Yeah, like it's cool, but sometimes it's a hassle. So like if there's no motion or anything.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, it'll just kick.
So occasionally you just have to get more animated. You have to be like, oh, I can't believe that's happening.
Comics, I need to read it. But yeah, no. I do, and yeah. I'm sorry. To your point.
Oh no, I'm just. But so Superman is. I really dig what's going on with Superman. I had been kind of lukewarm about the Zdarsky run on Batman, but this latest arc was fire. It was really good.
I am not. Okay. Yeah, spoil it for me.
I won't. No, I won't.
I don't know.
There's no reason to spoil it. It doesn't. It's okay. I won't spoil it because there's no reason to. There's no reason to. But the current run is really, really cool. It's a detective story. But if you're looking for Batman, I have to recommend a few things for you. Like if you're like, I've been off like mainstream Batman, because Absolute Batman is going to be here and it's going to sell regardless of whether Rob or I buy it. We are buying it.
Are you going to tell me Ram V's Detective Comics?
Absolutely not.
Okay. I was like, because I don't know if I want to read that, man.
I don't blame you. I've read some of it and I'm like, I can't. I appreciate it. One of those things where it's like the covers are the best thing for me, but also I recognize its greatness and I'm just too stupid. I'm sorry. His New Gods, though, is definitely worth buying. But no, Batman Dark Age, which is by Mark Russell and Mike Allred. That is also a sequel, like of sorts, to the Superman Space Age story that they did together.
Okay.
But you could read Batman Dark Age like in a vacuum. But that's it's a Elseworlds Batman story. It's bonkers. And I think you'd love it. Speaking of Jason Aaron, have you read any of Batman Off-World?
I have not. So the issue that I had is once Batman, White Knight came out.
Oh yeah,
that's when I latched on to the idea that the Elseworld Batman stories were better than the Batman comics at that point.
That's fair.
So like Batman the Imposter and like all those like one shot and like limited series books, I burned through all of them. So again, by the time I got to like Absolute Power and Chip Zdarsky's run with like Failsafe coming back and all that kind of stuff, then I was like, I'm gonna take a break for a minute. Like
I completely understand. But yeah, Dark Age out of continuity. It's not. It's fantastic. Off-World may or may not be in continuity. It doesn't matter. It's like a Legends of the Dark Knight kind of story where it's in the early days of Batman.
Yeah.
So here's the pitch. It's so dumb, and also it's been outrageously delayed.
Now, are we talking like the era of Legends of the Dark Knight, like the first year when it was dope? Or like the years after where it was trash?
No, dope. Like where well, in terms of quality, the point I'm making was just like Legends of the Dark Knight. The premise was just like, let's tell stories in the first 2 years of Batman's history, and that's kind of what this is. So like around year 1.5 or so, Batman is doing his thing. He's shaking down a mobster. The mobster's like, oh yeah, that's right, it's Batman. I called in a friend from out of town. He gets this alien as a bodyguard. Like a big ass alien from space who beats the tar out of Batman. Batman goes, okay, so I think I've mastered every form of fighting and human. I need to go into space to retrain, basically do all of my training all over again, but in space, so I can beat aliens too. So that he literally just strands himself in space, exposes himself to the most dangerous versions of aliens he can find, so that he can and he's like, if I can't beat them, I deserve to die in space. Ends up hooking up with a hot Tamaranian bounty hunter. Like it's a whole story about like Batman retraining, but for space-based threats as opposed to Terrarian-based threats. Because if any of them come to Earth, he's woefully unprepared. The point is, he's like, I need to protect Gotham from all threats, and then some dude is like, well, I'm going to bring an alien to Gotham to fight Batman. He's like, okay. So apparently I need to be able to beat like Zarnians and Tamaranians and stuff. So off I go. And he's woefully unprepared, though he becomes prepared. He like tames wolves. It's a really, really insane, sprawling
that sounds
space
pretty
epic.
dope. Yeah.
It's pretty dope. It's not over yet, because apparently to do like a 5 or 6 issue miniseries takes like 2 or 3 years.
Well, I mean, it took Jonathan Hickman like, what is it, 7 years to finish S.H.I.E.L.D. The final issue just never came out.
That's true.
Yeah, it took him forever to finish that.
I always forget that he did finish it.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, did that finish?
I'm used to just waiting for issue number 6. Like, what's issue number 6? We've been at 5 issues for the last like 4 years. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm more used to waiting for the last issue.
Yeah,
that's funny. But yeah, so Absolute's working out great. You've read the other ones, but how did you find Absolute Batman when you picked that up?
I loved, like, I was in love day one. I mean, Snyder killed it, and it was funny because I read the first issue and I was like, dude, Snyder still got it, man. Like, it's absolutely amazing. Number one, I love the fact that his mom stayed alive. Like, I love the entire twisting, right? It's not, you know, because a buddy of mine, Victor Dandridge, I don't know if you follow him at all, right? But he's an indie comic creator, and he's talking about how much it drives him crazy when they retell origins for characters whose origin stories are in the public consciousness. Right. And he's like, that's one of the reasons why the MCU like shouldn't do the origin of the Fantastic Four. Like, we know what the origin is, and if you do it, do like they did in the Incredible Hulk, where you fast track it in the credits. Yes. And so there was a part of me going into this book where I was like, man, am I really going to be made to like sit down and watch the Waynes get shot in an alley again? Right. Right. Like, I really don't want to have to do that. But like, the way he switched it up, right? So he's like, you know, the dad was protecting the kids at a zoo during some kind of a crazed shootout. Why were people shooting out at a zoo in the first place? Mm-hmm. Right. The mom stayed alive, and one of the things that I'm kind of surprised Snyder doesn't focus on, and I guess maybe because just so much time has passed, is the fact that he and his mom are still kind of struggling with it. Yeah. And that was like when I was going through the first issue, I was like, you know, but as time goes on, right, for the next few issues that he did, he kind of shows like he shows in such a beautiful way how it is that. Yeah, how it is that Thomas, or I'm sorry, that Bruce and Martha kind of handled the death of his dad, right? Because like there's this beautiful moment in there where like Selena leads him to like a movie theater. Yes. And he's like, well, I got to go do stuff, and like all of his friends are like, no, you're not, right? And, and like his mom's watching the whole time. Oh my god! Know, like where him and Selena, like little kids, you know, are experiencing this, and it's like it's such like this incredibly beautiful moment, right? Where, even in such a terrible time, like she's doing everything she can to try to give her son the best, like the most happy circumstances that she can, and like the value of friends. That's the other thing. I love that Batman's Rogues Gallery are his friends when he's a kid. Yes. I love that twist. Yeah. Jesus, it's so phenomenal. As soon as I started figuring that out, I was like, bro, this is genius. How has no one ever thought of this before? I know. Yeah, they're like, well, we've got it. It's Two-Face, and it's like they were barely ever friends. Don't tell me that like that scratches that itch. It is a much more personal Batman who is in essence a personal character. Like, he's a character who takes everything personally. His whole base is a monument to everything he's lost or likes. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, the dude is deeply personal. But this is like, yes, everything that Batman's doing is like intimate and real. And though he experienced this crippling loss, it's not as overblown or as big as like, oh, we need to destroy the whole city in order to get the hero's heart. It's like, no, he only needs to lose like his favorite pet or his favorite like parent, or, you know, one of his friends. Like, he could still have the rest of his friends. This thought of like loss and tragedy are deeply personal and have different definitions based on to whom it's happening. And as a result, like, you can do anything. With this case, Martha loses her husband, Bruce loses his father. Mm-hmm. When we lose someone we love, the world feels like it's ending, but you realize like we have other things in our lives that help us to get through that tragedy. That's really cool. And that's really smart of Scott to put that in there. I remember him talking about it at San Diego Comic-Con a couple of years ago. He's like, we got to change the origin. I want to change the origin a little bit. And I want to make it like something like more scary. Because like, you know, his origin is from the 30s, you know, the idea of like random violence happening to this
rich couple in this alley.
Yeah.
But it's what scares a kid. What scares kids today? And I was like, I think I know where you're going with this, and that's going to be a slippery slope and kind of dicey. But if you can pull it off, it's going to be friggin' amazing, because like a mass shooting is definitely the thing that every child in America at least is afraid of, aware of, and like just deeply in some way. That is their duck and cover.
Yeah.
Right. That's their like thing over their head.
100%.
And for Scott to weave it in there, like this could be like, I'm only hearing adults talking about how dope this book is, but this could be like some young kid's definitive Batman.
Yeah. Because they can relate to that. Yeah. For us growing up, it was like, oh man, like I'm walking down a dark alley at night, you know, like I may get like mugged or something like that, you know, and things could go sideways. But yeah, no, for a lot of young kid readers, that is a real intangible fear they live with every day.
Yeah.
And to see a version of Batman whose entire tragedy is birthed from that legitimate fear,
right?
It would. But no, I mean, you know, to the point that, because you know, you mentioned Legend of the Dark Knight a few minutes ago, and as you mentioned that, I was sitting here thinking about that, and I was like, you know, in some ways, this story feels like a subtle combination of Batman Year One and Legends of the Dark Knight.
Big time.
Right? Like it's such a really cool, you know, like and with, you know what, I would even throw in some Flashpoint, right? Like a very primitive Batman, right? Who's not nearly like the super advanced gadgets and the high end tech, you know.
Yes.
You know, flying around in the Batwing, you know, and it feels very like on a shoestring budget. Type of thing, right? A bootstrap Bruce, which makes perfect sense.
Bruce, I love that.
Yeah. It makes perfect sense, right? Because his mom's a social worker, his dad's dead, and when he was alive, he was a teacher. So they don't come from some grand wealth. And you know, and in fact, that's one of the things I do love in the most recent issue. Snyder addressed that, right? His dad's like, you know, in another life, I may have been a doctor,
right?
But I felt like the best way to help people would be a teacher, right? The best way to help kids would be to teach them. And so it's like, okay, so like he could have been ultra rich.
Absolutely. We could have had the same Batman.
Yeah, we could have had the same Batman, but instead Bruce comes from very modest means, right? From a very modest family. And so how does that guy who doesn't have all the money in the world, right? Instead of being like Thomas Wayne, who just flipped his shit, right? When his son died, right? And it's just like, I'm just gonna put like a IKEA desk and a laptop in a cave, right? And then just like, go forward and be Batman, like.
Yeah, which is actually kind of funny, because it does kind of echo that concept of like, he's a bare bones Batman. You know, Bruce Wayne becomes Batman. He's like, I need a plane. I need a tank. I need 6 different cars. I need a belt that has everything in it. I need a space rock that can kill an alien. Meanwhile,
it's 100% overkill.
Thomas Wayne is like, I need a gun.
Yeah.
All right, I'm good.
Yeah, and I need red eyes instead of white ones. Yeah.
But I want to scare them a little more. You know, that's kind of it.
A little more. Okay.
That, you know, very stripped down, very, very basic. But yeah, man, it's Absolute Batman just like swung and knocked it out of the park immediately.
Yeah, immediately for me, Absolute Batman, it 100% killed it. And I love, I mean, spoilers for the most recent issue, right? I mean,
yes, the Walter issue,
Yeah, so the art on that one was kind of wonky, and it really threw me off.
Yes.
It felt, I know it's not supposed to be a filler issue, but it kind of felt like a filler issue.
Absolutely did.
Yeah, the way the art was done. I do like the idea that the notion of Batman as a concept was actually kind of born from an engineering project.
Yeah.
Right? And like there is a kind of guilt there, I imagine, for Bruce Wayne, where it's like the project that I won that inspired this idea of Batman after the death of my parents, or the death of my dad, is the exact same project that got us to the zoo, that got my dad killed in the first place.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's just like, damn, like there's definitely got to be some measure of tragedy.
Absolutely.
Right, when it comes to that. But
yeah,
but still, you know,
for the record, I do want to say the Gabriel Hernandez Walters art is fantastic in every respect, typically, and there's some amazing full page splashes that I was like, this is fire.
Oh yeah, in this comic there's some amazing.
But but the thing is, and I think it's the reason what we're hitting on is like, because I was not a fan of Dragata pre Absolute Batman. I just don't care for.
So you were never like a
East to West or.
Yeah, East to West, yeah.
I
kept thinking like North by Northwest, and I was like, there's no comic from Cary Grant, like,
right? They're gonna like this one, Johnny. I love his work on Vision, and in any other world, Gabriel Hernandez Walters' art would be like a godsend. I'd be like, put him on a Batman book yesterday.
Yeah.
but Dragata and Snyder are clearly like, two sides of the same coin. They're working in tandem. They're clearly working together, like, in person, working on this book.
It's very much got the Greg Capullo,
Snyder feel, right?
Like from the two,
you can't have one without the other. When it changes, it fundamentally alters like my perception of the universe, which is a real problem, because if this is a world that's going to like last, it needs to be able to outlast its creators. But I felt that feeling too. I was like, I kind of miss Dragata, which I thought I'd never say out loud. But yeah, it's like crushing it.
Nick Dragata's art, man. Like,
I don't blame you. I understand. For me,
art.
the colors are really helping elevate his work. But like, my issue is Dragata's faces. That's really the problem. But he's nailing it in this book, and I don't know what it is about it. Maybe it's just the fact that the book is so special.
I think it's a combination of things. So I have long since believed when it comes to the art of Nick Dragata, especially working on East of West, he's best when it comes to like this almost post-apocalyptic type of feel with his art style. But more so than that, if you kind of condense it down, it's like this is a story where things are dark and bad things happen to people, and you don't want to be here because it's not very hopeful. And it's not to say he's, it's like, man, it's hopeless, watching his art because the guy is trash.
Exactly.
Dragata, you ever see this? Dragata, that's not.
No, we love you.
I love you to death, man. His art style lends itself towards a very darker environment.
Absolutely.
And so when Scott Snyder comes along and is like, here is a Batman who lives in a universe where it's not really hopeful, and there is no kindly Alfred Pennyworth Butler who's kind of helping him navigate the struggles of life. And instead, like, he's just a mercenary. Right? Who doesn't even want to be in Gotham, right? and that kind of thing. And the only real bright spots that you get in the story are the friends of Bruce and his mom. Right. And everything else is just dark and twisted, and these psychopaths are taking over the city and whatnot.
The party animal.
The Nick Dragata's art hits perfectly. It matches the mood so incredibly well.
I agree.
And I think that's the reason why. Like, if you would take a Nick Dragata and you put him on like Jason Aaron's Absolute Superman, maybe it would have worked. Maybe it
might have worked, but it doesn't work the same way.
It doesn't work the same way.
Yeah. Now, apropos, Absolute Wonder Woman.
Okay. All right, you went first with Batman. I got to go first with Wonder Woman.
Please, yes.
I love Absolute Wonder Woman. It's the best of the three Absolute books, I think.
Wow, that's a fair statement, though.
I love it. Now, having said that, it is far slower. The first three issues have basically just been, here's my origin, and here's me standing around in a bar talking, like smacking lip to some military
general.
Guy. To some general, and then
the present day story is probably 20 minutes of a movie.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, we're an hour into Batman and Superman, but we've just gotten past the opening credits.
Exactly.
and Absolute Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
But with that being the case, I don't know what it is, man, but I love it. Like it is Wonder Woman as I always imagined her, and maybe it's just because Wonder Woman is Wonder Woman no matter what universe you're in. So like her mannerisms and the way that she carries herself, because as I'm reading through this story, I'm thinking back to like Greg Rucka's A League of One and the Hikatea, right? And it gives so many feelings to that version of Wonder Woman, right? Where she's not, right, quote unquote ultra feminine type, right? She is not the one who just kind of rolls over and lets things happen, right? She is the one, right, she'll be just inclined to slap you across the face from mouthing off, as she will to like help you out. Sure. And I love the way that that's depicted here. But there is a kind of softness and kindness to her character that's shown when, for reasons that I don't understand, Steve Trevor arrives on the shores of hell.
Yeah, I know, right? Like,
which is crazy.
Dude screwed up.
There's a hilarious exchange there when he's like, I never thought I would end up here. And she's like, I mean, does anybody? Right? Like, it's
like, that's a fair question. Yeah.
It's a fair question. Yeah. It's the art style, I will say, I wish the art was a little more polished, and I kind of wish they brought on somebody who was a little more polished, with their art. But at the same time, again, I feel like the nature of the Absolute Universe is that it's supposed to feel a little janky,
almost unfinished,
for lack of a better word. It's supposed to feel almost unfinished, right? So a lot of the art that we get kind of feels a little jagged, and it feels
it should feel a little rough, or the feel of it needs to have this like authentically fresh and daring and youthful energy, and I think it does. And I think Hayden Sherman is giving us that. It doesn't hurt that also Sherman and Snyder work together on the IDW series Dark Spaces Dungeon. But
I have no idea what that is. I never read that.
Dungeon. They actually did 2 books, but Dungeon's the most bleak and like Snyder story you'll ever read. It's just super dark.
I will read that in the spring or the summer when it's sunny and warm and beautiful outside.
Yes.
I don't want to read this in a -5-degree overcast winter.
That is not the time.
That's not the time.
Yeah, read it in Alaska when the darkness comes. But I love what Sherman's doing, because even I hear what you're saying, and I remember seeing Sherman's work on Dungeon, and I was like, I don't know if I want them for Wonder Woman. I saw their character designs for Diana in I want to say San Diego, and it was just like her design. I was like, she is gorgeous and powerful and interesting, and it was all deliberate. And his concept for it, I was like, that's awesome. And then seeing their panel work, like all these amazing pages that are like, I rarely see this kind of thing, and I'm like, that this book out of all of them needs that kind of eye, that kind of artistic vision. Thankfully, Sherman also is drawing a Batman book that is exactly like Legends of the Dark Knight, where here's early Batman again. It's set in the 90s. Gordon spoke at a pipe. Like, it's old. And Sherman is giving you this like crazy, gritty 90s feel to Batman. And that's Dark Patterns, which, by the way, the approach is, it's like there's going to be 3 mini series. So it's going to be like Act 1, 2, and 3. And they're each going to have their own mini series that like sets up and continues this Batman detective story. That's a really cool book. But anyway, but Absolute Wonder Woman, how'd you like the demonology and creature designs and stuff like that?
I think it's cool. I don't know the whole idea behind. I can't remember what it's called, but like that giant.
Yeah. I don't know. Remember the name either.
the monster from Stephen King's Mist, right? That's
yes.
Like, that wanders on.
Oh my god.
Like I do like the idea that there's just like this huge force type being that that she has to fight and that kind of thing. I will say the only thing that I feel like the book is really struggling from is the same thing that every Wonder Woman book struggles from, which is who's her main enemy? Like, who's her arch nemesis? Like, what's the bigger picture for what she's doing and why she's here? Because she's got Cheetah, I guess, right? But like, Cheetah's no Joker or Lex Luthor or anything like that. And so oftentimes for the character of Wonder Woman, you kind of have to rely on the plot, and all the other elements around her, as opposed to her and whatever enemy she's building up to that she's fighting, in order to kind of keep the book going. And there is a part of me that's like, okay, like I love the mythos of this story more than I love what direction it's going in, and more than I love, like, is she going to be able to beat this giant, monster thing,
Yes,
and
the Tetracide, by the way, is what they call it.
The Tetracide. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah. Is she going to be able to beat that thing? No. I love this story for the fact that the Wonder Woman mythos is totally turned on its head. The fact that 100%. She is born and bred in hell. That it is a harsh place of testing. She can't venture out very often. I do love the idea that for scale, right, they show her as an Amazon compared to like a regular dude, and she's just like 6'1".
I know,
right, and like a solid 200 something pounds. It's dope, and it's all muscle. Right, I absolutely love that.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I know. We're gonna say absolute a lot, folks. By the way,
yeah, we are.
But the Cersei angle, the raising in hell angle, the beauty and the like patience. Diana, like, it's one of those things where like Kelly Thompson completely tapped into what really makes Wonder Woman who she is. Whereas like you could throw a rock and hit somebody who's going to give you a pretty basic but probably insightful breakdown of who Superman or Batman really is at the core. Whereas with Wonder Woman, she's a tough nut to crack because she's had so many different interpretations and ideas. The core of her is her patience and her empathy, because it's on display throughout the story. And what she chooses to do, to help Steve Trevor, to help her mother, Cersei, to help humanity despite their condescension, how she deals with people like Barbara and Minerva. There's so many beautiful, patient, kind, and interesting sequences that also are juxtaposed with her riding the skeleton of the first Pegasus, or wielding a dope Furiosa arm, or
and a flaming lasso.
Yeah, or whipping out the flaming lasso, or driving giant buster swords into Lovecraftian horrors.
Yeah.
All of that, and yet doesn't feel like a contradiction. Yeah. That's a hat trick.
That is true. That is a great way to put it. Yeah, again, you know, I really love the world building. Yeah. And okay, so here's the other thing too, and this is what's really intriguing to me. So we have no frame of reference for anything.
No.
So we don't know if the Trinity are all on the same planet or if they live in different realities. Mm-hmm. If they are on the same planet, like, we don't know what takes place, because they're all kind of arriving on the scene for the very first time. So are the events of what's happening with Wonder Woman taking place before the events of Batman, concurrently, or after? And the same with Superman. So I'm kind of curious, because I want to say that, like, Kelly Thompson had kind of dropped a hint in one of the Wonder Woman comics where she was talking about how, like, you know, greater people will come, or others like me will come, or something to that effect. I can't remember, but it felt like she was hitting on the idea that, like, there'll be a team up between, like, Ultimate, you know, or Absolute Batman and Absolute Superman. You know, so that's kind of my question is, when and how do all these things take place together? But on that note, I do have an idea, like a kind of theory about the nature of Superman. Yeah. About Absolute Superman. And there's a part of me that believes that the suit, because what is it? Lara / Martha.
Yes.
Yeah. Lartha. Like, she has, she apparently has, I don't know. I don't remember if it's like she's dying or she's struggling with, like, some kind of, like, Alzheimer's or something like that.
Yeah.
They just, like, show her on the bed.
Yeah. It's kind of vague, like, right now. It's just,
little bird, so.
Yes.
Yeah. So my thought, and I was sitting here thinking about this, and I was like, so the suit is, like, basically a sentient AI.
Right.
So what if the suit bonds itself to Lara and she becomes Eradicator?
Oh, okay. See, that's interesting, because
the suit just becomes Eradicator. But I just kind of want to see Superman fight his mom, right? Because she looks dope, right? When she goes and rescues Jor-El,
oh my God, we're gonna get,
like,
you,
the
Dad.
biggest gun that's shooting magma. Yeah, man, like, it's
no, it is so cool, and she would be a force to be reckoned with, and it would be tragic to see Superman fight his mom. And I mean, like, look, there's 100 years of history with Superman. Yeah. All those stories can be told, or some variation thereof. We're only 3 issues into, like, most of these books. I love it. I'm in. Yeah. I mean, like, I don't know where it's going. That's the wonderful thing about it. Similarly, in the Marvel side of things, is the Ultimate Universe, where...
All right, Sal, talk to me about Ultimate Spider-Man, because you are, like, I was literally on a Twitter Spaces the other day, and they asked me something about Spider-Man, and I was like, well, Sal over at ComicPop knows more about Spider-Man than I think anybody on the face of the planet. And I even told him, I was like, Sal knows the name of the nightclub that Mary Jane Watson used to run in, like, the 90s.
Oh, God.
Yeah. I remember we did an episode of the Weekly Pool years ago, where it was like a little trivia thing, and, like, you broke that out. Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, so this game's over and done. Like, none of us are going to win the Spider-Man stuff. But so well, you are the Spider-Man guy. Like,
very, very kind. Thank you. I'm loving the series, but as we dovetail into Spider-Man, I had to ask, what was your initial thought on Ultimate Invasion? Because you're my Hickman guy.
Yeah, okay. Jonathan Hickman, I love you to death, man. And the things I say are come from nothing but places of love and passion. Yep. Ultimate Invasion was 100% Marvel just being like, so we need to do Ultimate Universe. Hickman, take care of it and get it to us as fast as you can. And Hickman's just like, there you go. And, like, it was a homework assignment done at the 11th hour. Right? and that's exactly how it feels. Yes. And Jonathan Hickman, coming out of Ultimate Invasion with S.H.I.E.L.D., it was just kind of like, okay, whatever, it's this was a long, long time ago, and Hickman was still kind of getting himself figured out and what he's capable of. But after reading Avengers and New Avengers, Jonathan Hickman's not the guy where it's like, you need to bring back the Ultimate Universe and do it in 4 issues. No. Jonathan Hickman is the guy where it's like,
4 years? I can do that.
Yeah, and do it in 4 years. Yeah, you're that guy, right? You're like, bring it back in 4 years. So, I mean, the guy can write anything, but Hickman's not the guy to write a 4-issue miniseries. Because there's too much that he wants to say, and there's too much that he wants to do, and he can't cram it all in. And so you end up with time skips, and you end up with jumps, and you end up with these huge sections of stuff being left out, which to his credit, kind of overseeing the return of the Ultimate Universe gets to be done in other stories, you know, and so on. But yeah, Ultimate Invasion was okay. But it was just this ultra fast tracked return of the Ultimate Universe in Marvel. So yeah.
Feels weird. Yeah. I
didn't hate it, but I wasn't, it's not memorable to me.
Don't blame you. Yeah. So getting into Ultimate Spider-Man, of course, like that was I think for everybody, that was the one that was most anticipated. I mean, like Marvel knew it. They put it everywhere. All this, like, you know, 1,000 variant covers, all these different promotions for Ultimate Spider-Man. They're like, look, Mary Jane, and he's older, and it's like, is he older, or is he just the age he would be if Franklin Richards just didn't want him to age?
If Franklin Richards wasn't controlling the whole universe, and
I know Slott has said, yeah, right. Well, Franklin made a duplicate of himself or something. We'll retcon that one day, but I'm loving it. I mean, the idea of getting Checchetto was a smart, inspired decision. Hickman on Spider-Man was something that everyone has been saying since he was on Fantastic Four. People are like, I can't wait to see what Hickman would do with Spider-Man. Just give him Amazing Spider-Man. Just let him cook for 6 years. Yeah. And it's like, as much as I would love to see that, I don't think we're ever going to. And this is the closest thing we're going to get.
I don't know if I would be so sure. I wouldn't be surprised if Ultimate Spider-Man was a proving ground. If they were like, okay, like, number one, yes, you're Hickman. Yes, you're our strongest writer, but we're not going to just give you Spider-Man.
Right.
Just because of the nature of...
I don't see why not, since they randomly give people Spider-Man all the time.
I don't know. Maybe Hickman didn't want the main Marvel Universe Spider-Man. Well, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. Because if Hickman sits down and says, okay, so like I did Future Foundation Spidey, and you guys really love that, so I'm going to do main Marvel Universe Spidey.
Yeah.
There's a huge amount of expectation from the main Marvel Universe Spider-Man. Yeah. And you can't, I mean, just look at people dragging through, what is it? Oh my God.
Zeb Wells' run?
Who?
Zeb Wells?
Yeah, Zeb Wells. Yeah, people who were, I was thinking like Nick Wells, and I was thinking like Nick Wells.
Yeah.
No, people, I mean, the Zeb Wells run is absolutely split. So either you love it or you despise that run.
Yep.
And to a degree, Dan Slott, I think, experienced that, although I don't think it was really on the same level as what Zeb Wells is experiencing. But I wouldn't be surprised if Hickman was like, you know what, like, I want to write Spider-Man. Yeah. But I want to write my Spider-Man.
Right.
And the only way for me to write my Spider-Man is to write the Ultimate Universe Spider-Man. So that's why he wrote that one. I wouldn't be surprised. He just didn't want to deal with all the backlash. But I think you're onto something. I mean, certainly it's a tough book to be on. Zdarsky has said he didn't want to be on Amazing Spider-Man because it's just like such a slog. Like you're dealing with you're not just getting your editor's notes. You're getting like the publisher's notes. You're getting the editor-in-chief's notes. You're getting Disney notes. You know, it's like, ugh. I mean, it's Spider-Man. I mean, you can't. They don't just like hand you the comic and you just go off,
do whatever you want,
and do whatever you want. Yeah, you know.
Yeah, but we are kind of getting rules. Yeah, but at least with the Ultimate Universe, like Hickman is more or less doing whatever he wants, as evidenced by the fact that like the only detractors I see of this book are saying nothing happened. You know, they're like, nothing's happened in this book. It's been a whole year.
Okay. First of all, they don't know what they're talking about.
I agree.
Understand, guys. Jonathan Hickman, right? Jonathan, like this is, but that's the thing. That's why either you love Jonathan Hickman or you don't like him as a writer, because he's not by issue number 6, the world's exploding and it's up to Superman to fire his webbing into the 2 hemispheres of Earth and somehow pull them back together and save the day. No. That's not Hickman. Right. I mean, you remember Avengers and New Avengers, man. Like, like that's one of the reasons why Benny hated that. Like, nothing happened.
Yeah, he's just waiting.
You get to time runs out. Yeah. So you're just waiting for 3 years for everything to go sideways.
That being said, just as a quick moment, I just love that moment where like Cap's like, I remember. Hulk, come with me real quick. I just need to go talk to Tony for a second.
Oh, during Original Sin? Yeah. Dude, that was amazing. Yeah. He's like, he's just like this crotchety old man, right?
Yeah.
He becomes like Clint Eastwood from
from Unforgiven.
Unforgiven, get off my lawn. Yeah, he becomes that.
Or Gran Torino.
I guess. Gran Torino. No, Unforgiven. Oh yeah, Unforgiven was him and Morgan Freeman.
Yes.
Yeah. He becomes that guy.
Yeah,
tending to his farm, just this belligerent old grumpy guy.
Exactly.
But yes.
But Ultimate Spider-Man, yes, but things are happening. I mean, like
things are happening now, and but that's the thing, like. if you are aware enough of Jonathan Hickman, you kind of have to go into it expecting a little bit of a slow burn.
Yes.
And things aren't going to happen super immediately, which honestly is great because it means that when things start going sideways, and they will, right, that the payoff is so much better.
Oh my God.
So much better.
Yeah. You've just been anticipating it this whole time. You're like, what is it gonna? I mean, I've been reading this whole book with this kind of like expectation that another shoe is gonna drop, and it's been tough because I really love this series and I've been enjoying it so much. Like I've just been enjoying the depiction of Peter, the introduction of his family, the depiction of Ben and Jonah and his children, and more importantly, Mary Jane. Like the Mary Jane of it all. Like I saw some criticism of it where they were like, Mary Jane hasn't actually done anything in this series, and I'm like, then you aren't paying attention because Mary Jane has been like, she has had more agency in these like 12 issues than she has in the last 100 issues she's been in.
Yeah.
Like she is.
Yeah, the last 100 issues, she's been on the sidelines. It's okay, Peter.
Yeah, she's either screw you, Peter, I'm going to be with somebody else who starts with P, or it's okay, Peter, let's get back together, or maybe I'll start a nightclub, or maybe I'll work for Tony, or maybe I'll make out with a firefighter, or maybe I'm with Paul, or, it's just like this nebulous back and forth ping pong table, this poor character, like, because they're like, well, we're too afraid to kill her, but also we don't want to deal with the backlash of her, like, being in a steady relationship. They went so far as to be like, all right, she's with Paul. Paul has erectile dysfunction, so he can't actually have sex with us. Don't worry. And I'm like,
so we're not banging, but
right. Yeah. But like, she's okay with it. That way, if and when anyone wants to have Peter be with Mary Jane, she never actually slept with anybody else. It's like, what weird, gross world are you in with this character? Where it's like, just kill her for God's sake. Like, just let her go. In this universe, though, she's the head of a firm. She has ideas. She's the one who came up with the name and the driving force, the creative decisions that Jonah and Ben are doing with the paper. Like,
bro, that is one thing that I loved. I love the idea that Ben Urich and J. Jonah Jameson quit.
Ben Parker,
because the Kingpin controls it. And then basically, they run off and launch like the Ultimate Universe version of Frontline.
Yeah,
if you remember that whole story with like Ben Urich and Sally. You remember that from like Civil War. Yeah,
of course.
They launch Frontline, right? So that's So I do love that dynamic. But to your point, Mary Jane Watson is a very intriguing character because there is a lot of, I'm out there, I do my own thing, you can't tell me what to do, right? A very kind of independent streak for her character. I do love in the most recent issue when the story actually focused a lot around her. Yeah. And it focused on like the issues that she had with her sister and the fact that her sister was just kind of like, and I do love that exchange where she was like, well, I came here because I wanted to see that my life, despite everything that's happening, is still better than yours.
Oh,
right? Yeah. And that like you've just settled yourself down.
That whole Christmas episode is so real and
it was
great.
It was just like, the family problems that come with like Christmas crap, And it's like, because I think in a lot of ways, like for us who never really for those of us who never really grew up with like those huge family dynamics, things like that, like you kind of romanticize, right? Like the Home Alone family type thing, where it's like this huge family coming over to your house and none of us are irresponsible enough to leave a child alone in the home when we go on vacation, right? You kind of romanticize that huge thing. And then and Hickman's like, I mean, that kind of stuff is cool, but like, here's what actually goes on, right? Like the sister just shows up to your life, hoping her life is still better than yours, despite getting divorced and everything. Oh yeah. But there is that kind of moment, right, where she was like, no, but like, I realize you're happy. Right? Yeah. I mean, I don't understand why you could be, but you're happy, and that's really the important thing. And so they do kind of bond, and they come back together. But
Mary Jane's mom, who's a character I've never seen.
Yeah, that was cool.
The dynamic between Mary Jane's mom wanting to bang Ben.
Yeah, dude, that was. She's like, so is he seeing anybody?
Right.
Yeah, it's just like.
And it's like that's the thing that, and it's like if I were more cynical, I would ascribe to Hickman my own feelings, where it's like Hickman is using this issue to show Marvel that you don't need to have Peter be single to have fun sex drama with a Spider-Man comic, because the book isn't just Mary Jane's mom wants to bang de facto Peter's dad. It's Mary Jane's mom wants to bang Uncle Ben. Uncle Ben wants to. Uncle Ben wants to bang. Yeah. He is, because he F's. Because Uncle Ben wants to bang Aunt Anna. Mm-hmm. Jonah wants to bang MJ's mom.
Yeah. Yeah, it's this just huge like love.
Yeah, and no one wants to bang Jonah. So it's just like that's a book. Like that's fun, and they're old. Like the book is about geriatric sex, and I'm here for it. Yeah, who'd have thought that? Put that on the cover.
Yeah, there you go. Just a bunch of old people just looking at each other trying to bang. Yeah,
they're like, hey, have you watched Cocoon lately? Let's do this. Like,
yeah, no, it is like it's the comic. Yeah, the comic itself, and that's one of the reasons why I love what Hickman does is because. Yeah. He writes them as real people. And in so many ways, and I hate to kind of make this comparison here because they're two different writers and they do feel different in a lot of ways, but it feels very Bendis Ultimate Spider-Man like in the early days, right? Where it's a very grounded and tangible Peter Parker, right? And a very realistic version of Peter Parker.
Yes.
And I do love that. And I love the fact that Peter's married and I love that he has kids. I love that his daughter is the one that came up with the design for Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I love that the Venom symbiote was just this ball, like this suit just sitting on his desk forever. And I do love that in the original Ultimate Universe, because I'm sure you remember this, they made the Venom symbiote out of tech. Yeah. Right? It was an Osborn project.
It was Peter's father's and Eddie Brock's father's anti-cancer suit. That's the it was, but it's like it was a suit that they built that was made for like regenerative purposes. This is a Picotech suit.
It's a Picotech suit made by
Iron Lad made. Yeah. I'm like, this is really cool. And I love that it's like Peter's only tether, because like if you read the other Ultimate books, I mean, Ultimate Black Panther is its own beast.
Yeah, it is.
Ultimate X-Men is literally its own culture, and Ultimates is the main universe book. Yeah. Everything is segmented. The only connection Peter has essentially to the main Ultimate Universe right now is that Iron Lad gave him the Venom symbiote. Like, is essentially, you just screwed up my life with this horrible suit that's definitely going to like do horrible things to my family. Like, that's all. That's amazing because his relationship with them is going to be like, screw you people.
No, dude, no, you're 100%, because there's this there's this moment where Peter gets the suit, right, and there's the little black ball casing, whatever it is, right? It's just like sitting on his countertop or desk or whatever, and it is an identical throwback to the end of Bendis's Illuminati run, where Reed's just like, you know what, I don't need the Infinity Gauntlet, and he puts it away, and it zooms in on Xavier, and you could tell like he used his powers to convince Reed to give up, to trick Reed into giving up the Infinity stuff. And so it's like you look at that, and it's just like, okay, like this the way Hickman just kind of has it zoomed in on this little thing. It's like, okay, so that's gonna become Venom, like it's, and it's just like, all right, that's gonna be awesome. It was so cool, like, dude, like the question is how. I mean, it's a sentient suit, so I guess it kind of develops its own. Well,
he models the because when he's talking to Ock and Harry and stuff like that, they each are told to tailor their suits like personality to someone that they like admire or want. Like Ock's like, well, my personality's there up for grabs if you like, or Alexander the Great or blah blah blah. And so Pete picks himself and Harry picks his father. So for Harry, the ghost of his dad is screaming in his head about what a loser he is. And Peter's like insecurities are yelling at him like, what a great idea. Well, I can't wait to see it like fully formed. But like the thing that makes me so upset and so concerned, my whole problem with the series in the first place, which is just my like nonstop nail biting stress, is the final few pages of the last issue where it said, happiness is being surrounded by the people you love. Fear is knowing it can all be taken away. And I'm like, no!
Yeah, dude. It's, so yeah, for those of you guys who don't read Jonathan Hickman, that's Jonathan Hickman just being like, somebody in this group is going to die. Yeah, and like, we don't know which one it's going to be, but like somebody's going to be gone. And given the fact that Peter has been so close with Uncle Ben, and the fact that he's been working with, to a degree, with like Uncle Ben and J. Jonah Jameson on the business and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's Hickman just kind of being like, it looks like it's going to be Uncle Ben. But if Hickman's being Hickman, he's going to be like, actually, it's Aunt May, right? And then like, like she, and they go after her. But I don't, no, wait a minute. Aunt May still alive
dead in
that?
Oh yeah, Aunt May's dead. Aunt May died in the.
So it would have to be Uncle. No, actually,
it could be Jonah.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was J. Jonah Jameson.
Same. Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if we went after Jonah. Yeah. No, that's right. Aunt May's been dead this whole time.
Yeah. That's like that's
no
the trade-off.
doubt they made him do that because of Spider-Man in the MCU.
I know. Well, and that's the funny thing, because like you folk might be like, no, there's no synergy there, except for the fact that in Ultimate Invasion, who's the main bad guy in that book? Kang. Hey, remember when Kang was going to be a whole movie franchise and an Avengers movie, and now is a joke at the end of maybe Loki?
Yeah, he's a footnote. He's like, oh yeah, the TVA is like, yeah, we're aware of them.
Yeah, I took care of it.
We'll get around to him when we get a chance. Like literally, as I understand it, the opening of Doomsday is supposed to be Doctor Doom wiping out the Council of Kangs.
Fine.
Swoop. And then supposedly, I don't know, some leak or something came out where I don't know, some executive producer was like, actually in the What If series, the all-female Avengers team, like the A-Force team, so like they defeat the Council of Kangs like, off screen.
Oh, great.
So that's what we're doing. Like, these guys are getting killed. Like, we're wiping out this entire potential group that was supposed to be the future of the MCU in a side quest. Like, all right, well, let's just
in a side quest of a cartoon that you didn't even show, and instead showed a bunch instead showed a bunch of episodes that we would never want to watch.
Yeah,
cool.
Which is probably true. Yeah,
because I watched some of it. Like, I watched 2 episodes, and I was like, I really didn't need to see any of this.
Yeah,
I'm good.
No, like somebody, like I tweeted out and I was like, you know what they should have done? They should have done like one where Captain America became the Winter Soldier, and they're like, I mean, that's what he was, wasn't he? And I was like, well, no, because you're thinking like that. You're thinking very small.
Yeah.
So let's think big, and let's say, okay, so like Captain America becomes the Winter Soldier, and then you use that for like when he shows up as the Winter Soldier, it's actually Captain America.
Right.
He looks like Captain America, and you basically just do the Secret Empire Hydra Cap story. Right, where he's just a Hydra agent the whole time, and like that's it, right? It's like, come on, guys, think outside the box. Stop thinking so small. And it's like thinking that way is how you got the What If episodes that you got in season 3. Like,
I would challenge them to at least read one issue of What If they're going to name the show that, and just see what that book was about.
Yeah, because there's like, what if Doctor Strange joined Dormammu? That's an actual What If story.
Yeah,
that's amazing,
right?
I'm sure I'm sure Tiffany loves the Doctor Strange. Yeah, because she loves Doctor Strange as a character, so I'm sure she loves the What If story.
She wishes that they were better.
Oh, really?
She's not thrilled with the movie franchise, and the show is better, but not, because it's not Steve, it's Evil Steve or Dark Dimension Steve.
Wait, so she didn't like the Stephen Strange, who like destroyed his whole universe for oh wow, because it's all about Christine, man. Like, it's all about like him being in love with a person that in the first movie he says, we were barely lovers, we're not friends, and then suddenly he's like, and I love you in every universe, and I'm like, no, you don't, man. That's such bullshit. Like, but regardless, so be that as it may,
it may.
For Ultimate Universe, Ultimate Spider-Man.
You need to. Well, Ultimate Spider-Man's amazing. Even when the art shifts, I'm not down on it because it like matches the tone that Hickman's going for. Yeah. But I remember off mic you mentioned that you haven't caught up on Ultimates.
So I'm one issue behind. I have not read the Guardians of the Galaxy.
It is so important for you to read that because I feel like that's the kind of book that make you go, oh, because like it's nonstop references, like it's nonstop allusions to other universes, other timelines, alternate versions of characters in a fun way. Like even the times that they go to are references. Like where they're like, we have this many years to our destination. At one point, the Ultimate Guardians of the Galaxy are like, we're 1602 years to our destination, and I'm like,
Marvel 1602.
Yeah. And I'm like, I want to say Captain Universe of it.
Wait, Captain, are you talking about? Well, I mean, there were a few in Marvel. I mean, you had Marvel.
Oh yeah.
You had. Well, I guess he was really Captain Marvel, not really Captain Universe. But are you talking about somebody running around with the Enigma Force?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I feel like one of them is just a. It's more like Captain Marvel, but it's like it's like Marvel rather than Marvel, but it's still a woman. But it's like they talk about all the things that they run through and all the universes. Like, we defeated the Ultron Dominion and we split through the Infinity Prism, and we had to do super diplomacy to deal with the negative zone. And I'm like, and then found the positive zone. And I'm like, what are all these things? Like, it's just
positive zone.
See, I was like, if you read one panel of this book, you're gonna go, oh, what are all these things?
Yeah, okay, I need to read, because the last one that I read, I think the one that came out before that was the origin of Doctor Doom.
Yes.
And in the Ultimate Universe. And dude, that was an emotional, like, it was one of the most emotionally devastating comics that I think it like I felt a little bit scarred when he's like tortured by the Reed into by the Maker into becoming Doom.
Yeah.
And it's just like, dude, what a horrible existence, right? Like it's tragic. But that's where I was. That's where I got on the.
You got a couple more issues to go, but it's still there's at least one more because the other one is
Wait, no. There's that one, and then there's the one where they all go on a mission to fight to break into the Illuminati headquarters.
And I know you read that one.
And Hulk's waiting there for them. Yeah, yes. and like by himself. I mean, you could say whatever, like the Hulk's henchman, and he the ones from like Kunlun or whatever it is. But like the Hulk basically crushed everybody by himself.
Absolutely.
And so yeah, and like leaves Tony Stark broken. But that was nuts.
Oh my god, yeah.
I do love that though, that like the Incredible Hulk is the one that runs the 10 capital cities of heaven.
Right.
From like the Matt Fraction run. And so like he oversees all the immortal weapons basically. Like that was such a great twist. Like, I love that.
Oh, there was that great moment where they're dealing with they homage Ultimatum, where Janet gets eaten.
Yeah.
Again, but this time she aliens him and just like blasts out of his body. I'm like,
with a blob-ator. Yeah, that was this was a great throwback to that. Yeah, when it's just like it's like, why didn't you do that before?
Well, in that case, the less said about Ultimatum, the better. So when it comes to this Ultimate Universe versus the Absolute Universe, I mean, like, I feel like you're probably more jazzed on the Absolute Universe than the Ultimate Universe, but is it because there are more books you like in that universe than the other one, or do you think that Absolute's doing something better than Ultimate?
If I had to go between the two, I mean, from my perspective and from where I'm sitting, with Ultimate Universe, it started off with more comics that I was interested in.
Yeah.
Because I was reading Peach Momoko's Ultimate X-Men, and then I kind of dropped off. And I'm like, Peach Momoko's cool, but she's better suited for like Demon Days type stories.
Sure.
Demon Wars, different things like that. But it kind of, the alternate
reality version.
Yeah. The alternate reality of an alternate reality. I don't know how you describe it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I kind of fell off Ultimate X-Men. Definitely love Ultimate Spider-Man. Definitely love Ultimates. Ultimate Black Panther was phenomenal, right? The whole war between him and the upper and lower kingdoms of Egypt.
Yeah.
Or of Africa, the Ra, or I'm sorry.
Yeah, Ra and Khonshu.
Yeah.
So
that was really cool. That was a really, really cool arc. But I would say if we're saying like top to bottom, all the comics that are coming out right now, I'm reading them all.
Yeah.
It's 100% Absolute. And as I understand it, they're supposed to be launching an Absolute Flash.
Oh my god, dude.
I have the artwork looks crazy.
Yeah. Absolute Flash looks amazing. We're getting that with Jeff Lemire and Nick Robles on art.
Yeah.
We're also getting Absolute Martian Manhunter, which for me is I'm the one who's like, I don't know if I care about that. It's very avant-garde. It's very like off kilter. It's also written by Dennis Camp, like the Ultimates is. So like for that, you could get something really cool. Javier Rodriguez doing art on that one. But the thing I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised about is Green Lantern.
They're doing an Absolute Green Lantern?
With Al Ewing on writing.
Okay, here's the thing about Al Ewing. I 9 times out of 10, I love Al Ewing. But I love Al Ewing when it comes to world building. The issue with Al Ewing when he world builds is oftentimes getting from A to B can either just be like all right, this is awesome. Like, it's so easy to understand everything that's going on, and nothing's overly complex. Or it's his Immortal Hulk, which just stretches on. and okay, so that's the thing. Immortal Hulk, reading at the time that it came out, like as it was coming out, was just like, what the? I don't understand. Like, Al Ewing, what are you doing, man? But like when you go back and you read it, right?
Oh, it all makes sense.
It's one of the greatest Incredible Hulk runs ever written in the history of Marvel. But you just have to wait until he's done.
Right,
and
exactly.
Get to like what the point that he's making, right? So you're telling me like this whole time the big green door was just the one above all hulking out and becoming the one below all. Like that's all this was, and so it's just like, okay. Yeah. But on the other hand, when I read Al Ewing's Ultimates or Al Ewing's Defenders Beyond or Original Defenders run, right? Or any of those comics, it's amazing, right? It's just like, okay, so this guy, like, okay, Hickman has gods and that's cool and everything, but Al Ewing already did that. Like for the last 3 or 4 years, right? Ever since Ultimates and All New All Different Marvel, he's been rebuilding the entire Marvel cosmos, right? I mean, no one is better at world building, I think, at least in Marvel anyway, than Al Ewing when it comes to world building on the cosmic side and all that kind of stuff. And then Hickman does huge events. And truth to tell, if I'm picking a writer in order to probably focus on like individual story arcs, I don't know who I would pick. But anyway, so
but Ewing's doing a book with Yehoni Lindsay.
Doing Green Lantern. It can go either way. Either this can be his Immortal Hulk run, where it's just this wildly, overly complex Green Lantern run, or it could be like Ultimates and Defenders, where it's just super easy to follow. That being said, I'm kind of surprised he's doing that, because I feel like no matter who's writing Green Lantern, everybody compares it to the Jeff Johns run.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, every time.
Like I remember talking to Hickman once, and I was like, "Hey, man, so like, what's the chances that you go over and write DC?" And he's like, "I mean, if I ever did, like, I mean, what would you want me to write?" And I was like, "I don't know, something like Green Lantern." And he was like, "No." And I was like,
"No."
He's like, "I'm not going to try to compete with the Jeff Johns run." And that made sense. I was like, honestly, dude, you should write like Legion of Superheroes, right? Like a Justice Society of America book by Hickman would be phenomenal. But still,
Well, again, he'd be like, "Oh no, Johns loves JSA. I got to stay away from that too." He's
that's fair.
The funny thing is, you can imagine, like, it's so great to see people like Hickman, who are gods in our eyes, who are humble enough to go like, "Oh, I can't follow what Jeff Johns did." Like, they have their own insecurities and their own kind of like feelings.
Oh, I 100% fanboy. Like every time I meet Hickman at a Comic-Con, like I 100% fanboy out.
Yeah,
and I'm pretty sure it's to the point now where, like, you know, he's at a con and I show up and he's like, "Man, here's."
Oh no, here it comes.
Here it comes, man. Like, bro, he's like, "Hey, Comics Explained, like, good to see you again," you know. And it's just like, I don't know.
This guy's about to tell me how great I am for the next 10 minutes, and it's like, that's true.
I 100% hero worship Jonathan Hickman as a comic book writer. Like, I love his work as a writer. But if we're saying, like, you know, top to bottom, what has my attention, right? The entire comic book line, it is Absolute. That being said, you know, even though Peach Momoko's Ultimate X-Men isn't necessarily for me, I do think it's dope that they gave her something as significant as an Ultimate X-Men line, because I will say her art style is incredibly unique. And the fact that she basically, like, when she was doing Demon Days and Demon Wars, and the fact that she took like Civil War, right, and the main Marvel universe, and converted them into like manga type stories, is dope, right? And bringing the whole Japanese manga dynamic to Western comics. And I will say, as I was sitting down and reading it, I mean, it just felt, it wasn't really even that the story was bad or anything. It was just kind of like, so like, when do, like, you know, like, when does Magneto show up and start attacking everybody, right? Like, you know, that's what I was looking for.
Oh, that ain't happening, my friend.
Hers is a totally different take, like a totally different feel. So again, you know, I think it's cool that they did that. One, because of course it elevates her profile, which I think she definitely needs. And two, it gives a completely different take to the way the X-Men feel, which wouldn't normally be a problem if everything but maybe a couple X-Men stories of the moment in the main Marvel universe were not just boring as all get out. Like, let me tell you something, man.
You're not happy with the new direction of X-Men?
Dude, people have been asking me, they're like, why aren't you covering, like, you're the X-Men guy, like, why aren't you covering X-Men? And I'm like, because I'm still pissed at Marvel with the way they ended the Krakoa age. Like, and I'm holding it against them. Like, I'm mad. And
I don't blame you.
I've read the X-Men comics.
Sure.
And, you know, I'm not the biggest fan of Jed MacKay's X-Men run. It's not bad, but I'm coming off the Jed MacKay Moon Knight run,
which is great.
Yeah, which is the best Moon Knight's been in decades, right? Where he consecrates sprinkler water and kills a room full of vampires. Like, that's the Jed MacKay run that I'm coming off of. And so when you suddenly throw him on the X-Men, and it's like, well, here's the what upstarts are here, you know, and Trevor Fitzroy, it's like, okay, cool, this is an awesome throwback to the 90s. But it's clear there's like massive restrictions on what he can and cannot write because of what the MCU is planning for the X-Men. It's like, okay, well, if you're going to shackle him down with a whole bunch of stuff to create a story that I don't care anything about, then I'm not going to read it.
That's fair.
So now, like, I'm having more fun reading Magic, which feels like Benjamin Percy's Ghost Rider run, which is it's really cool the way that it's starting off. I'm reading Storm, which is
I love Storm.
Dude, Storm is she's a cosmic entity now.
That's freaking dope.
It's nuts. Yeah, it's really, really good. But for a lot of the X-Men mythos that's out there, it's just kind of like,
yeah,
not really feeling the current direction of the X-Men.
You might dig X-Force.
Really?
Yeah, it's
what's the whole gist with X-Force?
It's Jeff Thorne's writing it, and it is basically Forge has this orb that is showing him world threats, like threats that are that could destroy the world. Yeah. And so he forms a team of characters that he made friends with in Krakoa, and he's like, we get in the jet, we go where the orb tells us, we stop the problem.
Wow, that's pretty dope, actually.
Yeah, and it's like he's got secrets. There's
where's this orb? Like, I mean, who made it?
Who made the orb? What's it all about? I don't know, but I know Thorne does know, so it won't be a letdown.
Wow.
I have a theory about the orb. I don't think I'm right, but I'm looking forward to finding out. But
what's your theory about the orb?
I think that it's Charles. Like, I think it's a conduit that like Charles is using his powers, because now he's like in a prison and his like powers are like being dampened, but I think he could still use them. I think it's Chuck sending his, like, he's looking for world threats, sending them to Forge via the orb, and then letting Forge like go front and center and be like, hey, look at us mutants saving the world. Like it's him kind of like forcing X-Men into the world without having to like deal with whatever the hell Scott's doing.
I mean, you could be right, because there is a one-shot comic coming out here in the next 2 to 3 months, I think. It's The Secrets of Xavier.
Oh,
yeah. So it could be that like that's exactly what's happening. So.
I don't know, but either way, it'll be cool, and it is the most Krakoa feeling book. Like, it's the only book where they're like, they refer to it and they remember it, and they're kind of like, really sucks it's not here anymore. Like,
yeah. There's that's the closest you get to that with the Storm book is she was just like, yeah, man, like Krakoa happened, and and it's over now.
Right, but good thing I have this beautiful house, and it's like
I have a sanctuary.
And it's like, look, if your marching orders are make a Storm book, I understand her not being like, well, I mean, for her, she's like, I was the god of Mars.
Yeah.
So like,
that is one of the cool things of this address. She was like, I was an Araco citizen or a Krakoa citizen, and I was a goddess.
Yeah.
And dude, there is this beautiful moment at the end of the story, or near the end of the story, where like she dies and she meets her dad, and like she tells him all that stuff. She was like, I was a goddess, and I want to tell him I was married, like I was an actual queen. Like mom always called me a princess, but I became a queen. Yeah. And like, it's
a great book. No, it's I love that series. Iota Lay does such a good job with that book. But you should give X-Force a try. I'm not going to hard sell you on it, but I am going to be like, especially if you missed Krakoa, like, because there are a lot of folks that I know who are like, I couldn't wait for Krakoa to be over, so I love what's happening with X-Men. Although I don't know anyone who's saying they love what's going on with X-Men. I think they're just kind of like, I am reading X-Men now.
Yeah, that's the general feeling is from what I've gotten, is that it's not disdain. So it's not like, all new, all different X-Men where people are just kind of like, it's one of these where people are just kind of like, it's a book that's out there. And
like, I like seeing Stegman draw these characters, but
nobody's really excited about it, which, I imagine for Jed MacKay is probably a little disappointing, because as I understand it, he got a lot of hate at the start of his X-Men run, which I don't understand why people did that. But I think he was also a little disappointed, because I think he was expecting a lot more excitement and fanfare about his X-Men run. Yeah. And instead it's just kind of like, so now he's just kind of over there writing his comic. And that's the thing. Jed MacKay, I love you to death, man. And if we ever meet at Comic-Con,
Moon Knight, great.
If we ever meet at a Comic-Con, I'll buy you a beer and I'll buy you lunch. But it's not really you.
No, it's not his fault.
But I'm not reading the X-Men. It's Marvel editorial handing down their stupid decree to just axe the Krakoa age like that. Because you could tell they went to Jerry Dugan and they were like, so it's time to start winding it down. And he's like, how much time do I have? And they were like, right now. And so he's just like, okay. So they just end it.
Yeah, no, my Tiffany was our X-Men person here, and she was like, I'm kind of done with what Dugan's doing, but I am here for what those British guys are doing. Spurrier, Gillen, and Ewing. And it's like, just if it had always been those three after Hickman left, I think we'd be having a different conversation about Krakoa.
Yeah, Jerry Dugan was kind of wonky when he was handling us.
I didn't mind, and I liked his X-Men book, like his solo X-Men book. I loved that book. I think he was crushing it. But nah. So yeah, I hear what you're saying. It's funny because, like, you know, Absolute is like, oh, we're getting Green Lantern, we're getting Flash, you know, we're getting Martian Manhunter of all things, because they're like creative and interesting and different. With the Ultimates and the Ultimate Universe, new books, we got Wolverine.
That first issue was dope.
It is. It
was dope.
Well, and as a Moon Knight fan, it's like, oh man, that's where Capuccio went. Damn it! And he's doing this, and it looks amazing.
Dude, okay, so one of the things I am kind of curious about is how much of that history they're going to do, because all they've given us is they're like, Wolverine was made in North America.
Right.
But now he's here in the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
So we're just going to turn him into our Winter Soldier, and like we're going to brainwash him, and like he's going to go work for us. So we don't know the back end origin of how Logan became Wolverine, and we get these small little tidbits, right? I mean, there was that moment in the first issue, you know, where Nightcrawler's just like, you know, we always kept trying to come back and save you.
Yeah.
And so it's like, that was a kicker to me, because I was like, see, that's the X-Men that I want.
Right.
That's the ultimate X-Men that I want to see.
Yeah.
So I think they may end up, you know, taking Peach Momoko off and, you know, bringing somebody else on if they have.
Well, I mean, the funny thing is, they could always just do, like, I think that Momoko's book is selling, and I know that it's certainly, like, there's nothing that she's doing that would infringe on what, like, an Ultimate X-Force would be doing, or an X, or, you know, any other X-related book. So, you know, you could do, I mean, X Factor is the origins of X Factor was, we want to bring back the old original X-Men. The X-Men is too unfamiliar. Put the original 5 on a team and do that and call it something else. It's like, listen, if you want to do a throwback, do a new X Factor, Ultimate X Factor.
100%, I'd be down with that.
And it's just Cyclops and Jean and Beast and stuff.
No, that would be dope. Like, I would 100% be okay, you know, with them doing that book. Yeah, because Peach Momoko's, her Ultimate X-Men is just, you know, we're at school and some guy's taunting us, you know, like some mutant is doing some crazy. I don't.
It's very different. It's just it's a very different book, and I think that, like, it's cool that they did it. It's cool that they're trying it. And especially because, like, you know, for the most part, you see Momoko's, like, cover art, but this is a story of hers, and I'm like, keep it up, because it can only help. You know, if it infuses some, like, Eastern influences in the Western sphere, and we ape off some of those sales, I'm all for it.
But no, it's not a bad thing.
So what's your number one book from Ultimate Universe? It's gotta be Spider-Man, right? I mean, come on.
Honestly, man, that's at the bottom of my list.
What?
No, I'm just kidding. I love Ultimate Spider-Man. Yeah,
which I knew you'd never say, but I knew you'd never think to say that, because when we, you know, during the weekly pull days, like, Spider-Man overrated.
No. Okay, do you remember this conversation that we had? I sat down and I was like, hey man, so I started reading Dan Slott's Spider-Man, because you give me like a list. I was like,
here, read these.
Spider-Man should I read? You were like, go read all these, right? Read like these stories, and these stories. And so I started reading Dan Slott's Spider-Man, and I was like, dude, I'm in love with Dan Slott's Spider-Man. And you were like, so let me guess, the moment was when Peter was the only one who figured out how to deactivate the bomb because of daylight savings time. And it was just like, yeah, man. And like, I loved his Spider-Man run after that. So yeah, no. I love Jonathan Hickman's Ultimate Spider-Man. I love the slow burn. I love the human feeling of it. And I love that it's a more grounded, tangible, realistic Peter Parker who's an adult and has a family, and that you can make it work and you can make it interesting and exciting. Marvel editorial will never allow that to happen in the main Marvel universe, but we get to see it in the Ultimate Universe. And
agreed.
And I 100% love it. What about yours? What's your number one Ultimate Universe?
Oh, it's Spider-Man. I mean, like, you know, I appreciate what's going on.
It's Ultimate X-Men, Rob.
Yeah, it's Ultimate X-Men. My wife would say something different. I think she might. It's tough for her. It would probably be, she loves Ultimate Spider-Man, but like she loves Black Panther and X-Men. So I don't know. But for me, it's Spider-Man. Now I have my answer for the Absolute Universe, but between Batman and Wonder Woman, what's the number one book for you?
Well, I want to hear yours first. Like, what's your pick for the Ultimate?
I think it's Batman. I love Absolute Wonder Woman, and it's such a thrill for me every day. But the Absolute Batman book, like, I was sold on the pitch. Yeah. Like, when I heard the idea, I was in. And when I saw those pages, like when I saw the panel work of Batman, like, I remember Scott talking about it, where he was like, oh, by the way, like, you know how bats walk? And I'm like, kinda. And he's like, yeah, you know, like, they have their way, and they're like, you know, they come. He's like, Batman's gonna have those, and he's gonna be like, there'll be like some dudes with guns, and they'll be like in an alley, and then he's gonna like run at them, like he's gonna be like, he's gonna come at them out of the shadows.
He gets
and I'm
really
like,
animated when he explains Batman stuff.
Yeah, and he's like, he's just gonna be coming at him, and I'm like, that's insane. And he's like, yeah, he's gonna be like upside down and shit, and I'm like, all right. And then I saw it, and he did all those things, and I'm like, I love seeing it. I'm here for it. And by the way, I like the story too. It's not just like, oh, and then Batman goes graw, and it's like graw. Like I'm just here for it. No, I'm not Michael Bay. I'm just like, I just think it's cool. But it does what it sells it as.
There's a part of me. There's a part of me that feels like whenever Snyder is like gearing up, to write Batman, like to write like a new arc for Batman, that he becomes like Buffalo Bill. And he's just like playing Goodbye Horses and just like dressing up as Batman. And it's just like dancing in front of a mirror.
He's like, here we go, back into the breach.
Just the peak of insanity.
I gotta.
But no. I totally get Batman. Batman's really fun to follow. My current favorite right now is Absolute Superman because it's so starkly different from the way Superman traditionally feels. That he's not like your grandfather's Superman, but he's not like the new 52, I don't know if humanity's worth a damn type of Superman. It's just like, I'm Superman and I'm figuring myself out.
Yeah.
And so, to the point that you made before, it feels very much like Grant Morrison's New 52 Action Comics run.
Yeah,
it's really good. It's
really, but that's not to discount Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman, it was a tough pick for me. I honestly thought you were going to pick Wonder Woman, so
it's great. But Superman is my number one.
That's fair. That's understandable, and it's nice. There's only 3 books, and they're all kind of like winners for me. Yeah. But Rob, thank you for sharing your opinion and your insight. I knew we were going to go around the corner and back again, but I'd love to have you back. We got to do this again because
we do, man. I do miss it
because we tried to condense like 6 months worth of conversations into an hour, where it's like I haven't seen you in literally like a few months, so like here's everything we've been reading.
Dude, I need to get back on the con circuit because like we haven't hung out in forever, man.
That's the thing, right?
We need to get together and hang out.
That was the best excuse for us, was just going to cons.
Yeah, just going to cons and hanging out and making fun of Batman.
Making fun of Batman.
My bats are squeaking.
Oh, Alfred, you gotta come pick me up, dude. Let me tell you something. I am on and then off the San Diego Comic-Con train. The first, I've gone 3 years. I've gotten COVID 2 out of 3 years. I can't do it anymore.
Man.
And I love it because I love the city is amazing. The food's fantastic. The con is dope. The hotels are fantastic. The people are amazing. Everything about it is fantastic. I saw freaking Deadpool and Wolverine with Joshua Williamson at San Diego Comic-Con last year.
I still get pissy about that because I was like, okay, guys.
You weren't there. You didn't go, by the way.
He's like, are you going to San Diego? And I was like, no, I'm not going to San Diego. And he was like, dude, that sucks, man. And I was like, why? He's like, I'm going to go see Deadpool and Wolverine with Joshua Williamson. And I was like, really, man? And he was like, yeah, dude, you should have come to San Diego.
I had tickets. I bought tickets. I bought a row of tickets for that event. I'm selling all but 3 of them. So Tiffany, me, and Josh saw Deadpool and Wolverine.
God, that would be amazing.
Yeah, but I love that show and I love going, and I prefer it to New York Comic-Con at this point. But I can't be getting COVID every year, man.
Dude, it's a madhouse out there, man. Like it's an absolute madhouse, but it is nice, and it is nice. It is fun.
There's something about going to con poolside that really appeals to me.
Yeah. It is pretty dope.
Yeah. Rob, if everybody, you're already subscribed, but make sure to resubscribe to Comics Explained. Rob, thanks for being here. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks all for watching.